So, Bob, do you want to start off with something?
I could.
Okay.
Okay, as people might know, Carl and I emailed each other every day for over 10 years. And so I could flip through these and this way everybody would know, just be reminded how he thinks and what he does. Among other things, I got this computer going. I still don't like typing, never did. Those are part of what he emails, and a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. Well, on the wood, as an example, there are about 18 cords out here now. I saw him out there with a measuring stick, and he thinks there was 18 cords. And we each burn about 3 cords per year, so there's about 3 years' supply there now, and it grows and grows. That's what he said. This is Carl emailing me on the 4th of May last year. So those kind of things I'll be throwing in as we talk and whatever. And a lot of them has negative tones, but that's Carl. That's okay. He doesn't mean anything bad, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I think of and remember Carl.
Well, my name is Bill, and I was Carl's neighbor 3 doors down, and I can remember first meeting him by walking by his house and seeing all these wires up there. And at one time I was interested in being a ham, and I knew that's what he was, and so I saw him in his driveway one day, and I introduced myself to him, and I said, I guess you must be a ham. He says, I have been since I was a kid. Would you like to come into my ham shack? So he invited me to go in. I saw all this old relic stuff like vacuum tubes and resistors and capacitors that have been long gone since the 60s, 70s. But Carl was still active with these type of things. And he said, well, I'm going to talk on the air now. Would you like to sit down and listen for a little bit? And I said, sure. So, yeah, he got on, and just like he's been doing this for 50 years, which he had been. And that really brought back some memories to me about Carl.
I don't remember when I first met Carl. It's been a long time ago. He walked by every morning with Bob and the gang, and we'd talk in the mornings. When I really got to know him good was when he helped with the wood. He helped split my wood for the winter. And the best thing I remember about Carl is when Bill talked me into sheetrocking the ceiling on my garage, and Bob and Carl and I forget all the other guys, Tim and Zim.
I gave you about 5 minutes.
They all came and helped me, and what I remember about Carl in that project is he was very spry for the guy in his 80s.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
yes.
he could get up and down the ladders and saw horses better than I could. and he's 11 years older than I am.
I held the ladder for him.
Yeah, Bob held the ladder.
And I was smart. I didn't even show up.
And Bill talked me into it, but then he didn't show up.
No, I had other
but that's what I remember most about Carl. I know Shirley would love to share things with him. She'd bring cookies and cakes and stuff out to him in the morning sometimes.
And he wouldn't share those with us.
No,
as he was walking by.
he wouldn't share them.
And
no.
he walked with you guys, and I don't think he gave you any of those things.
No, he would eat them on the way home and try and get them all done by the time he got home.
And he wouldn't offer you guys anything, huh?
No.
But he was a generous person.
Yeah.
But
not
he had his ways.
He didn't want to insult anybody by giving the gift away. Yeah, he's a kick.
Okay, my next engagement with Carl was with Bob Golden and splitting firewood. Now there's something wrong with this picture because I don't burn wood, but I help cut and I help stack. Carl, where do you want this? Is this clean enough, Carl? And something was wrong with this picture, but that's kind of how I got involved with Carl. And for someone in his 80s at that time, I had a hard time keeping up with him. He was very definitely a person to be around to see how maturity in life could go and how smooth he made it. And then after that, we had a little sailing incident that we got involved with, and 4 of us went out sailing every Wednesday or Thursday. And that was another growing close of Carl, how his calmness and his patience would be out there on the lake. And the biggest thing, when there's no wind, he says, just, hey guy, just relax, it's gonna come. I'll get you there, and sure enough he did. You're saying, Bob, with the boating, I believe totally my whole heart that kind of kept Carl going. The fact that he knew every Wednesday or Thursday we're going boating, and his favorite place after boating was go to Mia's. We'd all ask, well, Carl, do you want to stop and go to Mia's today? He said, you crazy? We always stop and go to Mia's.
Let's go to Mia's.
And he would get his sandwich and either eat the whole thing or bring half of it home for dinner.
And he would almost always insist on paying, and we had to work around him. I mean, it was something else.
Yeah, and it's, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Oh, yeah, okay. Among other things, on I guess the first day last year, we did well yesterday getting kingfisher in the water and rigging her. No big problem, just a lot of small ones. We've done that job so many times, it's like second nature, but our memories still fail occasionally. The wind was light and variable as usual, and not many people on the lake. Water level was at the top, which is nice. We have 5 people on board and sailed just fine, no problem with overloading. Love that boat. Took my camera but didn't take any pictures, I was busy sailing. Afterwards we went to Mia's for lunch. The bill was only $19. Gary and I shared the tri-tip sandwich. When I got home I went right to bed, slept several hours, I was so tired. So another fine day of sailing on Pinecrest.
Yeah, well, one of the fondest memories that I have about Carl is that during September we always sponsored a birthday party. One time actually Bill and Margaret put one together, and then Tim and Diane put one together, and but it was just a great way to get the neighborhood together, and I'll let you go from here, Bill.
Yeah, we had, I think we originally danced, you started with about 20 people and it grew, and I think towards the end there we had closer to 40 people, and this was all kind of dedicated with neighbors and friends being with to get together, and we kind of used Carl as an excuse, and he liked that excuse very much. We would ask him, Carl, would you like to have another birthday party? Oh, sure. When? How soon? And it was a good excuse for us all to get together, and he really seemed to enjoy that.
I think he came a little bit for the salmon walks, you know, besides
without
the
a
cake.
doubt.
The
Very
salmon,
much so.
yeah.
Yeah, very much
I know Riz has a picture of Carl with 2 hands full of salmon, feet in his face, 2-handed, and that was really. And you guys are awfully generous, you know, with your.
Yeah, I think Shirley gave Carl some salmon that she'd canned in Alaska at one time.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
indeed.
Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah, he enjoyed that, and I think Carl really enjoyed his Christmas party that Dennis and Angie put on.
Yeah, that's very true too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was always wanted to come to the parties, and he obviously liked them, and he was kind of life of the party also. Some of the stories you could come up with.
Yeah, providing there was salmon there.
I'll stop.
Carl and his radio thing of many, many years. I think he started radio when he was just a boy. But anyway, he, among other things, said to me, in response to something I asked him, don't know. Yes, radio is like magic. All sorts of things can happen. I think your Wi-Fi is a radio link. Now, I don't know what that means.
Right.
When Carl had to go to town, that wasn't Sonora. That was the settlement. I went to the settlement yesterday. That means Twain Hart Market. He referred to that shopping center as a settlement.
I never heard that.
Yeah, he did that
I never
year
heard
after
that.
year.
Did you hear that, Glenn?
Never did.
Yeah.
How about you, Bill?
So, yeah, I thought that unusual, and I had to ask, or I had to listen a little bit to figure out what the heck he's talking about at first. But he did that for 10 years, referred to Twain Hart as a settlement. Stopped by the post office and the Twain Hart Market where I got some food. I got some good stuff. I went home to eat lunch. And so anyway, yeah, I thought settlement is very important to know.
I'll stop there.
Some of his war stories that he talked about during World War II was pretty interesting too as a kid, and how he liked it. He said, I could have stayed in a little bit longer. I had a good tour. But he was, no question, he was a person that I knew him going from his 80s to his 90s. It was a nice slow way of kind of learning to enjoy life and retire. And if I ever make it to that age, I hope I can kind of do it the way Carl did.
I think with Carl, I think his whole life was an education. I mean, he was always trying things that were really neat.